Vasudevaya. So we are reading Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, chapter 2, text number 29. Very, very nice verse. Durlabo manusho deho dehinam kshana bhangura tatrapi durlaba manye vaikunta priya darshanam. So this is just the first part of the verse. We're saying, for the conditioned souls, a human body is difficult to achieve. It can be lost, and it can be lost at any moment. Does that remind, for our Shruti Dharas, does that remind you of any verse that you've heard a childlike saint, a child saint, say before? Anybody? Prahlad, yes. So this is Prahlad when he's preaching to first thing he says to all of his friends and students, he says, Kumar acharet pragyo dharman bhagavatan iha durlabam manusham janma tat art tat api dhruvam tat api adruvam artadam. So what does Kumar mean? Who can say what Kumar means?
Young, pure one.
A kid, yeah. Yovanam is more youth or young, but Kumar is like really small, like really like a kid, like a little kid. Kumar acharet, what does achar mean?
Behavior.
Behavior. So Kumar acharet pragya. Gya means to know, and that which pra is to increase. So someone who's very smart, what is his behavior when he's a kid? What does he do? Dharman Bhagavatan Iha. In this life, he practices Bhagavat Dharma from the very beginning. Dur Labam. What does Laba mean? We're practicing to become Shrutidars. Laba. Labham.
Receive.
Receive, yes, to obtain. And Dur means bad or hard. So what is hard to receive? What is very rare? Durlabam Manusham Janma. Manusham Janma means? Henry? Manusham Janma. Janma means?
Birth.
Birth. And Manu? Manu means?
Mind.
Human. Mana means mind. Manusham, human. Birth, what's really hard to get? Birth as a human. So durlabam manusham janma tad api dhruvam. What does dhruvam mean? What is that? If you're looking to the sky and you put a camera that is a time-lapse camera, what would be still?
North Star, basically.
The pole star, yeah. So that's the Dhruva star. So Dhruva means fixed. But human life is very, 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 very short. It is adruvam, not fixed. It is impermanent, very short-lived. Shanabangura, as it says in this verse, just for a moment. It's around just for a moment. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Martya Lokam. After enjoying on the planets of the demigods, we come back to Martya Loka, Mantra Loka Vishanti. We fall back to this world of death, meaning that we live so shortly. So this human body is very rare. It is very short-lived, but it's artha dham. What does artha mean? I think Henry said it. Artha. We have in English, you have this unvaluable,
Wealth.
so wealth, valuable, or and you have anartha. See, that's something that's unvaluable. The AN is the same as the UN in English. So artha dham, it can give you, dham dadati, it can give you the greatest wealth. So this is Prahlad speaking to his friends. From the very beginning of your childhood, we got some Kumars here on the camera, to a Kumar and a Kumari that are there, these two kids. And it says, from the very beginning of our life, we should practice Bhagavat Dharma. Because although this human body is short-lived, it is can give the greatest value. So here, in the 11th canto, the first part of the verse is saying that it's very difficult to achieve. Now, you have a very cool story in the Buddhist literature. Shanti Dev, he tells how rare the human body is, how special it is. And so what he does is he explains that if you have, if you can imagine a planet that is just oceans, there's no land, it's just oceans, and in this ocean, there's a blind turtle, and the blind turtle, he comes up for air every 100 years. And by chance, there is a log floating on that ocean. And by chance, there's a hole in the log. And by chance, there is a little toothpick floating in the hole. So this turtle, he comes up for air every 100 years on a planet just as big as ours. It's full of oceans. This blind turtle. And by chance, the log is floating above his head. And by chance, his head pops up through the hole in the log. And by chance, the toothpick balances on his nose. This is the rare specialty of human birth. And you have so many animals, so very intelligent. You have there's so much intelligence is there, but we find, what is the intelligence used for? One example is the mallee fowl. Mallee fowl, I think it's in Australia. These intelligent acts of the animals challenge the idea that everything is happening by chance. For example, a mallee fowl, when the mother is pregnant, the mother and father, they build a giant mound of leaves and sand. It's up to 6 feet wide, up to 4 feet tall. Build this giant mound of leaves and sand, and then they bury their eggs several feet deep within the sand. Eventually, the female leaves, and I think it's the male that stays there, and maintains the temperature of what is inside that mound. His beak is like a thermostat. So he sticks his beak into the mound, and he adds sand, or he removes leaves, or adds leaves, or removes sand, or adds leaves. And the leaves, because they're decaying, they create heat. And so he's able to keep that mound within 1 or 2 degrees of a 1.5 degrees of fluctuation. He keeps it at a very steady temperature.
That's called composting.
Yes.
That's a science.
Yes, yes. So, this bird, he actually didn't even go to school for this. This is a really interesting thing. He didn't go to school to learn how to do this composting science. He has his own thermostat on his beak that gives less than 2 degrees. It keeps the temperature less than 2 degrees fluctuation. And then he leaves before the eggs are hatched. And these birds have specially built lungs where they're underneath this great sand and soil. They struggle for about an hour to come up. They rest for a few minutes. Then they start running around, and by the end of the day, they're flying. So here's the question: if everything comes by chance, how did this system come into play? Because if you make a mistake, then the eggs don't survive and you have no species. So either you have it fully developed from the start, or there's not really an opportunity to work at it. It has to be done perfectly. Otherwise, the eggs don't survive. So this is actually, you can find in this devotee science book called Nature's IQ. This is by devotee scientists, and they've got hundreds. This is actually for Karen. You can get this for your kids. It's an amazing book, and it's full of pictures, Such a good book. So you find this intelligence is there, but the intelligence is just for eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. And so there's one thing as humans that we can exercise our humanity is by using our intelligence to do things that animals aren't doing. And that's that self-reflective thing. Who am I? What am I? What's the purpose of life? So durlabha manusho deho. You find these same words here. Durlabho manusho deho. This getting a body, a human body, it is durlabha, very difficult to obtain. Dehinam shana bangura. Dehinam, this kind of body, although it is very shortly lived. It's shana, it's just around for just a moment. And it can be lost at any moment. But then he says, tadapi durlabha manye vaikunta priya darshanam. So human body is very rare. Very rare. How rare is it? How long does the turtle come up for his breath? 100 years, yes. Blind turtle in a planet full of oceans where the wind is blowing this way and that way. And somehow, actually the original example is not a log, but a yoke. But most of us don't even know what a yoke is. So we just say a log with a toothpick.
I have a yoke in my car.
Okay, yes.
Driving around with it.
Only the gopis and gopas know these things. Cool, we have some gopis.
I wear a yoke all day long.
Yeah, we got Gopa Bhima, and we got the two gopas here, Gopa and gopis. And so very, very rare. You find this taxonomy is given in Chaitanya Charitamrita. This is I think Madhya Lila, chapter 19. So he says, in the universe, there are limited living entities. 8,400,000 species are all wandering throughout the universe. And then he says the length of the breath of the living entity is described as 1/10,000th of the tip of the hair. This is the original subtle nature of the living entity. And then he gives that measurement. If you take the tip of the hair and you divide it into 100 parts and take one of those tiny parts and you cut it into even smaller 100 parts, that's the dimension that is there. That's according to the Vedic mantras. And then in 142, Krishna says, among minute particles, I am the soul. Like this is from 11th canto. It's kind of like Krishna's 10th chapter of the Gita. And so here it says in text 143, this is Chaitanya Charitamrita. So that the living entities are definitely the parts. They're not complete wholes. They're actually parts. It's a long verse, so I'll just kind of sum it up. And so you have, among the living entities, you have two divisions. You have the Jangama and Stavara. Jangama and Stavara. Jangama are mobile. Stavara are stationary. What kind of creatures are stationary? I forget your guys' names. Karen's kids. Tell us, what are your names?
Annabelle, Isaiah.
Annabelle and Isaiah. Okay, so what kind of living things don't move?
Plants.
Yes, those are the stavaras. Yes, and jangama are more. So there's, out of all living things, there are two divisions: the jangama and stavara. I remember when I studied a Sanskrit class, they told us how to say mobile telephone. Jangama duravani. Jangama means mobile, moving. So among all these beings, you have those that are moving. And then among those, you have the birds, aquatics, and animals. And then so each of these are getting into a smaller category. So you have human beings. But among human beings, you have those who don't have great civilized principles. And then among those who have civilized principles, a lot of them are it's just talk, lip service. They're not really living it. It's just kind of giving a pretension of it. And then you have those who are following civilized principles, but they're mostly what is the Sanskrit for this one? 1 second. Open link. Karmanishta. Karmanishta. They're engaged in karmic work, either on a very selfish way or maybe even a very regulated religious way. And he says, out of those, rarely you find someone who is a jnani, who's a very thoughtful, a wise person. And out of many millions of such jnanis, then you hardly find one who's actually liberated. And then out of millions and millions of liberated persons, you hardly find one that's a devotee. The devotee is very rare. And then the famous verse is given there. So this is Krishna Bhakta Nishkama Aiteva Shanta Mukti Bhukti Siddhi Kami Sakala Shanta. So the devotee, he's actually peaceful. He has actual internal peace. In this world, people are looking for happiness and pleasure, but happiness and pleasure is not something that you obtain. It is a byproduct of shanti, internal peace. But the mukti, the one who's seeking liberation, the bhukti, the one who's seeking material pleasures, and the kami, the one who's seeking, siddhi, looking for yogic powers, and the kami, the one who's seeking material desires, neither of them are peaceful because they have these material desires, and therefore they're ashanta. So this taxonomy is given. It keeps on going rare and rare and rare. So let's go back up and we'll look at the verse. Durlabam manusho deho dehinam shanabangura tadapi durlabam manye vaikunta priyadarshanam. For the conditioned soul, the human body is most difficult to achieve, but it can be lost at any moment. But I think that even those who achieve the human life rarely gain the association of the pure devotees who are dear to the Lord of Vaikunta. So purport. According to Srila Swami, the word dehinam means bhavaho deha bhavanti ye shamte, the conditioned souls who accept innumerable material bodies. According to some wishful thinkers, a living entity in the human form of life will never be degraded to a lower form, such as that as a animal or a plant. But despite this wishful thinking, it is a fact that according to our activities at the present, we'll be elevated or degraded by the laws of God. At the present moment, the human society there is no clear or precise understanding of the nature of life. Foolish scientists have invented highly sophisticated terminologies and theories to bluff innocent people into believing that life comes from chemical reactions. So if you were to take a single cell organism, I would don't do this, Henry, because you're not even a murderer of a single cell organism. But if someone were to take a single cell organism, put them in a test tube, and then take a needle and kill that single cell organism, and then you go to Columbia University and you offer them trillions of dollars and say, create life, in this test tube was one single-celled organism. We have killed it. Now create some life. None of them can do it. None of them can do it. They often, in the past, they would speak very boldly that life comes from chemicals, but now they seem to move the goalposts. They don't really talk as strongly that life comes from chemicals. Now they talk more about things that are already alive. Oh, we cloned something, say, but they took something that was alive and altered it, but they've never taken chemicals and created life. And the test tube is really a good example because these are just previously living. They cannot produce so much as an insect, even from unlimited qualities of chemicals. Actually, life and consciousness are symptoms of the spirit soul. In Life Come From Life, page 143, this is the same purport that we're reading. Srila Prabhupada stated, living beings move from one body form to another. The form already exists. The living entity simply transfers himself, just as a man transfers himself from one apartment to another. One apartment is first class, another apartment is second class, another is third class. Suppose a person comes from a lower class apartment to a first class apartment. The person is the same. But now, according to the capacity of payment or karma, he is able to occupy a higher class apartment. Now we have prayers of Brahma, and who's saying that human birth, this is the best situation. We'll have some verses later on we can see that he says, even this is Brahma, the engineer of the entire universe. If you want to be God, that's the closest thing you can experience. That you have a whole universe that your job is to engineer. And he's saying, no, this human birth, that's the best situation. I think Bhima has his hand up.
I just wanted to note that currently, and I do not know much about it, but I know that they have computers that are doing meta computing. I'm not quite sure that the words used, but we're entering an exponential age in as far as science being able to try to figure things out through the language of the universe, math, like material energy itself, and manipulating it. But in all that power that AI is producing in simulating life, that we have not yet produced a single cell organism. So I thought that was interesting. It's not just we're sitting around with conjecture and lab bottles and little chemicals, but that we have supercomputers who would do billions of calculations a second, are still unable to figure out what the spirit is all about.
Thank you. Yes. We, as Prabhupada says, it's a post-dated check. Keep on funding us. And like Prahladananda Swami was saying when he was in the university, this is like in the 70s or 60s, and he said that they spent thousands and thousands of dollars at his university. Buffalo University had all this money, and they spent, and for now it wouldn't seem very much, but it was something like $80,000, and they were trying to figure out why spiders build webs. And you know what they found out? To catch flies. This is like $80,000 later. So continuing the purport, within every species there is consciousness, and that consciousness is a symptom of the living entity, who is the superior energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Without understanding this essential point, the transmigration of the conscious living entity throughout 8,400,000 species of life, one cannot possibly understand the words, Durlabho Manusho Deha, the human body is rarely achieved. People are now being cheated with this essential understanding. They're completely unaware of the danger of slipping back into the 8 million species that lie below the human species. It is natural that a human being thinks in terms of progress. We want to feel that our life is progressing and that we are advancing and improving the quality of our life. Therefore, it is urgent that people be informed of the danger of misusing the valuable human life, and that they know the great opportunity that human life affords. So, for example, we have this is an iPad Air. it's or iPad Pro. It's kind of thin, and I could use it. You could try to like chop some tomatoes with it. This is or you say you get some nice computer and I need to put some pictures up on the wall, and you take your pictures and you take your computer and bang it on the wall. So is this the proper use of such expensive equipment? So human form of life, it's a thing. What a danger. It's very rarely achieved. Okay, where we are in the purport. Because they know the great opportunity human life affords, the opportunity to take to Krishna consciousness. Just as on Earth, there are different residential areas dividing high class, middle class, and lower class. Within the universe, there are upper, middle, and lower class planets. And by the practice of the yoga system, our meticulous education of religious rituals, one can transfer himself to the higher planets within this universe. On the other hand, by neglecting religious principles, one will degrade himself to a lower planet. But the Supreme Lord declares, Bhagavad Gita 8:16, a Brahma Bhuvana Loka. So in all these places, there's it's just repeated birth and death. This is the final conclusion that is every planet within the material universe is unsuitable and inappropriate residence, because each planet there are the primal defects of old age and death. The Lord assures us, however, that in his transcendental abode, which lies beyond the material cosmos, life is everlasting, blissful, and absolute cognizant. The material world is temporary, troublesome life rife with ignorance, but the spiritual world called Vaikuntha is eternal, blissful, and full of knowledge. The highly evolved human brain is given the gift by God so that we may use our intelligence to distinguish between that which is eternal and that which is temporary. Na sate vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate sata. Ubayo apidrishtantas tvanayos tattvadarshibhihi. Those who are seers of the truth have concluded that matter has no permanent existence, whereas the spirit soul never ceases to exist. The learned souls have concluded this by studying the nature of both. Those who accepted the Supreme Lord, this is a long purport, so everyone continue with your fixed attention. Those who have accepted the Supreme Lord and his abode as the ultimate goal of life are called Vaikuntha Priya. Here King Nimi states that to have the personal association of such learned transcendentalists is certainly the perfection of human life. In this connection, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati suggests that we consider the following verse. Oh, yeah, this is a very nice verse. Deham adya. I will skip the Sanskrit, but this is 11th canto, chapter 20, text 17. The best of bodies, the human body, is a great attainment, rarely achieved, may be compared to a boat. And how do we get this? Actually, it says in the verse that we get this by the arrangement of nature. You will, if you take birth as an animal, you will have to go through all these different species. And as we mentioned, the story of the tortoise, it can be a very, very long affair. But there's a natural function that you go up. That's the arrangement of nature. That's one part of this verse. That arrangement is there. As a human, you have the opportunity to go up, down, or out. But the natural arrangement in the other species is to go up, and generally the natural arrangement of the demigod species is to go back down. And the human body, you can go up, down, or out. So you're given a human body. You have the guru, which is like the captain of the. So human body is like a boat. The guru is like the captain, and then the Vedas are like the winds. Krishna's giving you all this help. Is given all. I've thus given the all facilities for crossing the ocean of material existence. Any human being who's achieved these excellent facilities of human life, but does not cross over the material ocean, is considered Atmaha. He is considered suicidal, a killer of his own self. According to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, the eternal servants of the Supreme Lord, being controlled by the powerful feelings of mercy, descend into the material world as Vaishnavas to deliver the conditioned souls who are bound by the results of their own mundane work. Such Vaishnavas also distribute the mercy to those who are laboriously searching after the impersonal absolute. So as we hear from the Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's, Madhurya Kadambini, he talks about how do we get bhakti? Bhakti is like Krishna. Krishna is independent, and so is bhakti is independent. We only get bhakti from bhakti. So we get bhakti by the mercy of these devotees coming into this world. If we were to say, oh, we get bhakti by Krishna's mercy directly, then that would imply that Krishna is somehow partial. He's giving it to one, not giving it to the other. But if we look at the Madhyama Adhikari is by nature meant to be partial. He's kind to the innocent. He avoids the antagonistic, and he's affectionate to the devotees and has devotion for the Supreme Lord. So he has these 5 different kind of relations that are there. Srila Narada Muni has stated, without ecstatic love of Godhead, such a laborious and personal contemplation of the Absolute is certainly troublesome. This is in the 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says, very troublesome. What is the verse 5? Vaish karma apyachruta bhavavarjitam. That's some other verse. And what to speak of the innumerable problems of the ordinary gross materialistic life? We have practical experience that in the Western countries, most people are working hard to get money, laboring under heavenly dreams of sense gratification. Mostly it's all in the head. It's all in the head. Others have become frustrated with ordinary materialistic life, are trying to negate their personal existence and merge into the existence of God through the so-called yoga and meditation. Both classes of unhappy people are receiving the mercy of the Krishna consciousness movement, putting aside their dreams of sense gratification as well as their troublesome and personal speculation. They're learning to chant the holy names of God, dance in ecstasy, feast on the holy food offered to the Lord. They become enlivened by transcendental knowledge spoken by the Lord himself in the Bhagavad Gita, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita 9:2, susukam kartum avyayam. The actual process of spiritual freedom is joyful to perform and has nothing to do with fruitive activities aimed at sense gratification or with dry impersonal speculation. More and more people are taking to the process of Krishna consciousness, becoming joyful and eagerly distributing Krishna's mercy to others. Thus, the whole world will become enlivened and inspired on Krishna consciousness, which is a practical demonstration of the mercy of the Vaishnavas. So you see this mercy is being distributed. We have Adi Purusha is every week is distributing this mercy, and it transforms lives. I recently, just yesterday, I saw this. Will Smith's son, he started a restaurant called the I Love You restaurant, and it is it was a food truck. And he originally started in 2019, and he was really disheartened with the COVID thing because he had to stop. He couldn't support it anymore. But even though it was very much needed, so this restaurant was free if you couldn't afford it, and then if you could afford it, basically you weren't paying for your meal, you were paying for other people's meals. And it's a I Love You food truck, and it's a vegan food truck. And you see that this is, this person, he met a devotee, and there's definitely this mercy, this compassion is becoming spread, where it changes the tamasic environment, brings it up to rajasic, brings it up to sattvic, where people actually have this mood of what is the Sanskrit word? Loka Sangra. They want to take help the people of this world. They witness the compassion, and then they want to distribute compassion. And so the Vaishnavas, as it's mentioned here, they're very dear to the Lord. And how do we become very dear to the Lord? As Krishna explains in the 18th chapter. What's Krishna's soft spot? He's got a soft spot. And in the 18th chapter at the end, he says, you share Krishna bhakti with others. That's my soft spot. It's like sweet sugared butter. He loves it. So if you share Krishna with others, then we're tapping into Krishna's soft spot, and we become very dear to Krishna. And then those who receive it, they also feel this compassion, and I want to share the compassion that I received. So we'll stop here and hear if there's some reflections, questions, or comments. Adi Purusha Puru.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Wonderful presentation. Prabhupada says that thing about the animal's intelligence. You know, like the butterflies, those monarch butterflies, they fly all the way from Canada to Mexico. They go like this, they don't even go straight. They go all the way from Canada to Mexico for the winter, right? They mate down there. And the scientists would say, it is instinct. It's instinct. It's just a word you made up. It's Krishna. Krishna's giving intelligence, giving mating and defending. But they say that these days our educational system in general gives people skills but no value. You know, animal skills, how to make a living, but no values to evaluate, well, what should I do with this skill? And it's really sad. We had some devotee parent who was bringing kids on a vacation. And I said, well, you're welcome to come to New York. He goes, well, what would they want to do in New York? Go to the Bhakti Center for the morning program? I mean, you know, the Tuesday night kirtan or distributing prasadam for the homeless. I mean, where's the attraction? I was like, oh my goodness. So boring come to the kirtan. So, you know, so the value is human life is valuable, you said, and the value is to choose to not just live a selfish life of indulgence and animal propensity. Prahlad Maharaj says, if what we do is eat and sleep and have children, how are we different from the animals? So, you know, the value, we want to understand what is value. A pig looks at a pearl and just steps on it, pushes it into the mud. Jesus said, don't throw your pearls before swine. So if we educate the children to understand, Vaishya Shekhar said this really funny thing yesterday about, you know, when the kids are little, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, you know, you give them the holy name. But then when they get to be about 14 years old, they go, wait a minute, is this what I really want to do, or is this what somebody just told me to do, you know? And sometimes they go away. So we're trying to instill not just an activity, but appreciation of the value of human life, that it's may not be easy. Austerity means something awkward, painful. If you don't accept a voluntarily austerity, then you can't grow. And so it's not just like, if it feels good, do it. You know that philosophy. I'm talking too much. Oh, glory to Srila Prabhupada, Hare Krishna.
Thank you. We have Min.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for class. You had spoken about how bhakti comes from bhakti, and it's something I've been hearing a lot, and I just I think I've heard a few times that bhakti is independent, that and I was wondering if you could. I've also heard of the personification of Bhakti Devi. I was wondering, what is the role of Bhakti Devi when we come in contact with Bhakti, or when we share Bhakti? Is there such a thing?
Could you rephrase the question again?
Yeah, I was just wondering, the personification, is Bhakti Devi personification of Bhakti?
Yeah, it's described basically in the spiritual world. Everything's personal. All
Mhm.
of Krishna's aspects, his energies, like the seasons, everything is personal. There's emotions are personified. There's all kinds of different aspects of reality, and they have their own original personified forms.
And does she play a role when we hear come in contact with bhakti or share bhakti with others?
I'm not at that grade level. I'm not sure. I would have to.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe we have Madan Gopal. He might. I think we have our darshan pretty soon. But if you want to read about the how bhakti is independent, that's the Madhurya Kadambini. There's a nice translation, small book by Dinabandhu Prabhu. It's a very nice one. You can read. And that talks about how the question of where does bhakti come from, and because in the many verses it says somehow or other. So looking at that question of somehow or other, and after the darshan, I think we'll have our afterglow. We have a few other hands up.
Thank you, Adipurusha Prabhu, for facilitating the darshan so wonderfully today and taking us to the Okay, this was the Kurukshetra moment. Thank you very much for sticking around. We have hands up by Shreya Kairava Didi, Krishna Kumari, and Paul and Bhima. Okay, let's do it. Shreya Kairava.
Haribo.
Cool name, Shreya Kairava Didi. Very cool name. Congratulations again.
Thank you very much. Truly, it's such a blessing. Thank you so much. Truly appreciate you all taking me into this beautiful sangha. Again, I don't speak much most of the time, but what Adipurusha Prabhu mentioned today really resonated. That there is in this they spread so much of there is so much of education that we give to the kids, but not much values. And what Prabhuji mentioned over and over again is that the human form of life is the most valuable form of life that we have to make use of. And this is such an important thing that we need to tell the young children and especially the youth, because many of them are losing their lives, and it's such an important thing that we need to spread. So I was wondering, you know, as part of the Harinam Sankirtan, are all these values that are so important and passed on to us, if it can be spread, is it being spread? And what awareness. We are very fortunate to hear this. Although for me especially, it may have come a little bit late in life, but it's so important for young kids to hear this, and especially the youth who are a little disillusioned. So, is there something that we could do as Vaishnavas to spread this beautiful message? Is my question.
Thank you, Shreya Kairava. So how do you explain it to the kid, Nityananda Chandra Prabhu? The value of bhakti.
So Prabhupada said we should rack our brains. So this is not that we have, okay, I have it figured out, but rather we're constantly engaging our intelligence and our creativity and how to share Krishna with others. That's a constant meditation. Rack our brains. That's
Actually,
Shreya Kairava wanted to wreck your brains, Nityananda Chandra.
okay. So you have some children?
I had two kids. I unfortunately lost one,
Krishna.
and two suicide. So this is like a very personal thing to me,
Yeah.
that kids are not understanding the value of human life, and that's the reason I bring this up. As a mother who has lost a child this way, I feel very personal that this needs to be spoken to youth who are very disillusioned in this world.
Yeah. And we have so many methods. We have kirtan, we have prasadam, we have classes, we have retreats, and we like somebody that starts a business and they find, okay, this is not working over here, let's try this. We're always trying to see what ways can people experience Krishna consciousness. Like a few days ago, we had our meeting with the brahmacharis of the Brooklyn Temple for our darshan room program. It's a Sunday program. Basically, on Sunday, we take out all the newer faces that are showing up at the temple. We take them out and we have a separate program just for them. Upstairs are for the aunties and uncles. Downstairs is for all people that they meet from Harinam and such. And so we had our meeting, and they asked for the history of like, when did we start this program? And I told a little bit of the story. My wife said, "Oh, you always forget. There's, first we had, we had this. We had Spaghetti Wednesdays. Then we had this. Then we had," and we would say, "Okay, this one is working at this moment. This one is bringing people in, and they're getting some experience of Krishna consciousness." And we're always trying to give some basic things. There's prasadam, kirtan, philosophy, but how we go about doing that I mean, some devotees are in education, some are doing this as business consultants. We find so many different ways that people are sharing Krishna consciousness. And so that we're always trying to be um, like when Prabhupada was in India, they said that the people don't respect Harinam. They said they think you're all beggars, um, and he did engage devotees in Harinam. He engaged them in making life members and building temples. And when they come to the temple, then they engage in kirtan, but not on the street. They weren't. Or if he was in Iran, there was a different type of engagement versus in United States. Each place had kind of catered um, program. For example, in Montreal, devotees were with Srila Prabhupada for 2 weeks getting trained. Yamuna, all those devotees were getting trained how to perform kirtan very nicely, very beautifully. And they went to London and they struggled, but eventually they were like on the music charts, and they're putting them in all these concert halls all around the country doing kirtan. And so like this, we're humble means we always have some way to learn or grow, and we always try to figure out what are different ways we can share. Um, it's not, and then everyone has their very specific talents. That you may have a specific talent that I don't have, and then you can offer that talent to Krishna. He's interested in seeing your talent expressed and tasting the love that's given in your offering. And so everyone has their own particular talent. So many different ways. We're basically just always trying to meditate. How can I share this? As Ananda Bihari says, we can ask others like what are some ways that were successful for you, and we can find out how we can also apply those ways that are successful.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Yeah, and this is such an important message, and I truly hope that you'll keep spreading this awareness that human life is very important, and the youth especially need not be disillusioned. There is always a way towards Krishna that they can move towards. Haribol, thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
That's such a wonderful, deep, heartfelt question, and such an important question. You were quoting Kumara Acharet Pragno, that from the tender age of childhood, it's appropriate to attempt to instill this understanding in the children. And I was listening to David Wilkinson, and he was saying, you're trying to share your faith with your children, burning tears. You can twist your mind this way and that way and try to figure it out. You can just say, Lord, I'll do anything. I know that this is my responsibility. This is the way I can show love. I can give the children food and a house and clothes and an education, but if I don't give them God, what's the use? And I can't do that without the Lord's help. And Krishna will help us. You're understanding how important it is, and we see your sincere crying out. And when we cry out to Krishna, we cannot do it without Krishna. And Krishna will help us because Krishna wants this done. But it may cost, you have to be willing to do anything.
Thank you.
It's going to cost you every bit of your energy, every bit of your intelligence, every bit of your resources. But Krishna's going to help you bring that child home.
Thank you. Thank you, Adipurush Prabhu. Thank you.
Krishna.
Haribol.
Mr. Kumari.
I'm really touched also by your share. There's this wonderful devotee, because of my mind, I can't remember her name. I don't know if it's Gopika, but she's in New Jersey, and I've taken a lot of her courses and gone to the Grahasta workshops with her. She does something called Bhakti Matters. And I've done many courses with her, but her whole thing is like, she basically became a wonderful devotee at the temple and then a wonderful student at school. And then when she went to college, she was asked to like play cartels at a bhakti group at Rutgers, and she just like couldn't do it. Like her two worlds were separate. And so she's really become an educator, not just like what are we doing and rituals, but why are we doing it? And the more I did her workshops, I realized my kids got the why we're doing it, but they don't know the, the shloka. So I went the opposite.
What about who they're doing it for?
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
we're trying to please someone. We see their love for us and we're trying to reciprocate.
Yeah, so she really she has wonderful activities, and then she leads groups of devotees that are educators and parents. That if they're going to teach about the four regular principles, like they do kind of like a real feeling into and like activities. It would be great for adults too, for sure. Like we're not just like following rules and regulations, but we're living them and 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 it's life changing. I was thinking how I love your classes, Nityananda Chandra Prabhu. I was thinking how Radharani today, she actually looked like a Kumari. She her skirt was like what a young girl would want to wear, like one of these princess dresses. It had like these little sparkles. It was so beautiful, and she looked like the queen of Vrindavan. She today had like this crown tika along with her flowers. And when I first saw them, I thought of this devotee friend I have who's Irish, and she loves to dress her deities in shamrocks and green. And anyway, it's so sweet. And then I was going to ask you all to pray, to Bhakti Devi and to Radha for our dear ox Madhu. So I'm driving around with this yoke because, like you're saying, it's so hard for a turtle's head to fit through the hole of the yoke. Well, our bow expanded in the weather, even though it's like just hanging in the barn. And it's not supposed to go inside. It'll become too brittle, it'll break. But it no longer fits through the hole of the yoke. So now I'm trying to find a woodworker. And I'm just like, why is it so difficult? Like even the easiest things, like I think I've like got together, are so difficult to take care of cows today. So I just, yeah, we're having Keshi Mardan come from Gitanagari again on November 29th to train the ox and train others. But it's like this next thing, how am I going to get the yoke back together with the bow by then? So I'll just pray that Madhu really gets to do some meaningful work, his dharma. Thank you.
It's something on the child issue is that some the devotees that grew up in the movement that have like really stayed, some of them have said that their parents made it really fun for them. It was just, they had a real blast when they went to have anything to do around Krishna consciousness. And then Prabhupada says that when they become older, like in their teenager years, it's not old, but it's older, we should be their friends and their confidants. And so then, sharing and also sharing something I try to do with my kids is share your realizations with them. Share like what's happening, be vulnerable with them, like even your struggles. And they can learn from that. Oh, they're struggling in this way and how I'm trying to overcome it. And so let them in your world. It's, everyone, that's what relationship means. So start having a real relationship with them.
Thank you very much, dear devotees. Has everyone spoken sufficiently in glorification of Guru and Krishna? Adi Purusha Prabhu.
Yeah. The Amish have this thing where they raise the children, just like Mathura said, there are stages. First, when they're little, avadut like Ram, you just have to let them do whatever they're going to do. Then there's a stage where they're actually able to accept some discipline, some do's and don'ts. And then when they get to be 12, 14 years old, like Mathura was saying, Prabhupada said, then you just have to be their friend. They have to make their own choices. They're going to have to make some mistakes. And what the Amish do is when they get to be 6, they know they have to follow very carefully. It's a very tight religious community with sadhana and principles. But then when they get to be 16 years old, they know they can go. They can go. They call it the devil's playground. There's a word for it that's another language. I don't know, Dutch or something. And then they go out and they go away.
Rumspringer.
Rumspringer, right? And they know when I go out there, I can take intoxication, I can engage in illicit sex, I don't have to go to church, but they shun the teenagers. If they want to go out, but then you don't have anything to do with us. They don't try to coddle them and keep them in the house and keep them around. They say, you are free, you make your choices, and 90% of them come back. And there's amazing documentary called The Devil's Playground, where they talk to kids who are like 13, 14. They know the 16-year-old is coming. And there's one. Then they interview ones that are out there using methamphetamine and smoking marijuana and doing all kinds of degrading things. And then they talk about some of them that come back. Most of them, 90% of them, come back and say, you know what? I want to join the community. I want to follow the principles. I want to be a devotee. But we tried in our first generation of teenagers here, all kinds of wild teenagers that the parents just tried to keep in the spiritual community or in the temple, and for a lot of them it just didn't work, and they caused all kinds of nonsense activities in the middle of the night, skinny dipping in the cat and yelling and screaming and breaking in the cars of the guests. And it's like, wait a minute, these kids have to go. They don't want to be here. They don't want sadhana. They don't want service. And then Das's brother, Devananda, I remember once he said, nobody knows how to engage it's impossible to engage these teenagers. And Kirtanananda said, well, maybe we haven't figured out yet, but we should try. And so those lakes at New Vrindavan, near the temple, we got all these bulldozers and dump trucks and forklifts and what do you call those things? Backhoes and stuff. And those teenagers would run out there at 7 o'clock in the morning and work till 10 o'clock at night because they just loved working on that heavy equipment. And they built those lakes for Nityananda Chandra. So there is a way. Krishna will show us, but we have to be ready to. It's a great austerity to raise children. And it says no one should become a parent or a spouse or a teacher or a government official unless we're prepared to deliver our children, our spouse, our students, our constituents, if we're the government official, from repeated birth and death. We have to be willing to do anything, and Krishna will help us to do it. I'm sorry to talk so long. Glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you very much, Adipurusha Prabhu. Just in addition, very quickly, in addition to all the wonderful things that have been mentioned in regards to Shreya Karava's question, if we treat our children with love, if we care for them genuinely, and if we love them for what they are, not trying to convert them or trying to drag them somewhere, showing them love and care genuinely, at the same time, all the while, keeping our service going, being a devotee, then children will naturally appreciate the devotee in us and other devotees. Because otherwise, if we are practicing bhakti, but not treating our children with love and care for who they are, they will think we're just zealots, trying to convert them, trying to, hit some checklists.
One of the devotees is going to go visit his family now, and they say, spiritual bypass, you're fully engaged in devotional service. What about your family? What about your grandchildren? And his son is like 35 years old and already has some kids, and his wife is not really following. But he said his idea is to go visit them, not judge them, not expect anything from them, not consider that he's better, but just go there and just to show them, I love you, and I wish you well, and you're completely free to make your own choices. And I'm not going to try to say that what I'm doing is better. But, this is the developmental stages that people have to go through. I'm sorry to talk so long. All glories to Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Okay, speaking of children, Isaiah, please recite the Maha Mantra. Where is your partner in crime, Annabelle? Where is she?
The Kumaras.
Yeah. Okay. We can read your lips, but we can't hear anything.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Thank you very much. This was the practical application, practical demonstration of the subject matter. Thank you very much, dear devotee Shreya Karava. Wonderful question. So many perfect answers got out of your question. Thank you. Thank you, Nityananda, for a wonderful class. Much. Come again tomorrow. Srimad Bhagavatam never ends, never stops.